Tsunade? Tsunade, is that you? Where am I? Why am I in the hospital? And when did you start wearing white? Hold on there. We'll answer all your questions. Just take it easy there, okay? Tsunade exclaimed through hushed whispers. Okay, Tsunade, I want you to start from the beginning and explain to me what is going on. Minato's desperate screams awoke Jiraiya, who shouted, Don't go. I love your curves too. Lucky for him, Tsunade was too concerned about Minato to serve him one of her legendary punches, so Jiraiya, seeing his prized student awake and shaking worriedly, got up to comfort him. Look, Kushina and your kids are fine. I just checked on them before I dozed off. Look at you. You're the Hokage and you're shaking like a baby. Get a hold of yourself and start thinking clearly, Jiraiya said. Sighing, Tsunade said, Come with us. As everyone left the room and crossed the hallway to reach the next room in the hospital, Minato's heart almost broke seeing Kushina wrapped in bandages with tubes wrapped around her entire body. If it wasn't for the clumps of bright, red hair standing out from the bandages, he would never have recognized her. I'm sorry to tell you this, but she suffered severe brain damage and may never come out of her coma. I'm going to do everything I can, but at this stage, it's just the waiting game, Tsunade replied. Jiraiya put a hand on his teary-eyed student and told him, There, Minato. You have to be strong for your two sons and the village. You're a father and the Hokage. Everyone is looking up to you for leadership. You're right. I can't get emotional right now. Where are my kids? He exclaimed shakily, leading him to the two cribs in the far right corner of the room. Tsunade said, They're two beauties, aren't they? Minato still remembered the night when his wife gave birth to twins, identical twins. Looking at his second child, Minato couldn't imagine they looked identical only a few nights ago. The child had deep, dark red hair color that he couldn't have gotten from his mother, who had a bright red color that mirrored a fresh-picked tomato in many ways. Jiraiya went up to explain. You remember that after the Sandaime knocked you out, he used the dead demon summoning seal? Seeing his student nodding, Jiraiya continued saying, Well, we still don't have a full understanding of the seal. Remembering the third sacrifice almost made Minato turn to depression, but he was still many questions about Naruto's state. So we don't know what the sealing does anymore since my wife is in a coma, but we know that after the consciousness of the demon fox was sealed into Naruto, he underwent these drastic changes. Minato said, That's about the gist of it, Jiraiya answered. Hearing that made Minato's heart sink. Then how do we know this child is really son? There have been cases of a bijou taking over a human vessel after destroying the child's consciousness, especially in Suna, Minato asked. To tell you the truth, we don't know. However, we do know the seals that Suna uses are very weak, and those seals failing can be attributed to Suna's lack of seal masters, Jiraiya answered. Strengthening his resolve to do whatever is necessary for his family and the village, Minato ordered the ANBU operative Inu to get him Inoichi immediately. Leaving in Shunshin of Leaves, Inu re-entered promptly with Inoichi Yamanaka, head of the intelligence department and head of the Yamanaka clan. Kneeling, Inoichi asked, What can I do for you, Hokage-sama? Hi, Hokage-sama, Inoichi said before going to the crib. Making the necessary hand signs, Inoichi entered Naruto's mindscape. However, before he could go far enough into the mindscape, he was grabbed by a large chakra claw, and looking into the demonic, fiery eyes of the hate-filled demon, he almost puked. Before the monster could rip him apart, he was pulled out by a concerned Minato. So is my son in there or not? Asked Minato. Minato, at this point, didn't know what to do. He knew he should to act like a Kage and think about his village above all else, which likely meant killing his son. Giving a 1,000-year-old bijou of destruction, even one that has been seriously weakened, time to plot for freedom is not a good idea. However, he couldn't do that if there was a chance his son could still be in there. What do you think I should do? Inoichi asked an exacerbated Minato. Good thinking, Inoichi, Minato said, as he pondered that option. He knew that option made the most sense. However, he couldn't have him live in the Namikaze compound. He didn't want to endanger the lives of his wife, his younger cousin Yuna, or his other son, Menma. Wait, he could have him raised in the orphanage and proclaim him an orphan. If he told everyone that Menma was a Jinchuriki, it would also hurt Yuna's reputation, and he couldn't have that, especially since she was just made a chunin. No, he had to act like a Hokage, and that meant doing things for his family and the village that he might not want to do. He would have to proclaim Naruto the only Jinchuriki. He was already sacrificed to the Bijou's consciousness, and he would have to endure one more sacrifice for the sake of his family and the village. If, after all that, he grew up to be a normal boy, he would welcome him back to the family. I've made my decision. Only Naruto is to be known as the Jinchuriki. Menma's status is a double S-rank secret only known to those in this room. Not even of the council is to know about this, Minato said seriously. He then added, Tenzo, I want you to call a council meeting. I need to know about the status of the village, what can be done, and what our enemies are doing. Jiraiya, I want you to take young Menma to the Namikaze compound. I want Yuna to take care of him while I deal with village matters for a while. I also want an AMBU team stationed near her and my son at all times. No doubt, IWA and others are going to try something after hearing about the birth of an heir. After doing that, I want you to come to the council meeting, Minato said. You got it, Jiraiya said as he left to complete his tasks. Tsunade, I know I promised you a break after a successful birth, but could you stay for a while to look after my wife? If she doesn't wake up after a while, you can go. Minato asked sincerely. Kushina was like a daughter to me. I'll look after her, Tsunade declared. 5 years later. Then, there was the constant and loud proclamations that he was going to be the 5th Hokage. Certainly, Kakashi's encouragements didn't help. But the only thing Minato could complain about is his fetish for all things orange. Minato, however, still felt pain in his heart at the thought of Kushina, who is still lying in the hospital unconsciousness as she had been for the past 5 years. After a few months, Tsunade stopped trying to find a way to wake her up. Not that Minato could blame her. Minato had spent countless hours watching her try every treatment on Kushina, even Kenjutsu, to try and get her out of her coma. However, what really surprised Minato was that it was Orochimaru that kept trying to find new ways to treat Kushina. For as long as Minato had known him, Orochimaru had been cold and calculative, not the obsessive type. Regardless, Minato was grateful because Kushina had been his first friend in the academy and later trusted comrade. However, if Kushina were to wake up, it would complicate things. Minato had restarted his relationship with Mikoto because of Tsunade's assurances that Kushina would likely never wake up again. This left him an orphan who had to take care of his 3-year-old cousin Yuna, who he wasn't particularly close to before. Even after all that, he didn't give in to depression and instead wholeheartedly turned to his academy studies. After missing his second in a row, he heard someone say, "You have to turn the shuriken a little to the right to factor in the wind, and at such long distances you should aim a little higher instead of straight at the target." "Look, I just wanted to help you out. But if you don't want my help, then see ya," she said as she spun around to leave. These top jounin who weren't part of any clans would choose apprentices to pass on their powerful techniques. If he wanted to have any shot of getting that kind of apprenticeship, he needed to improve his taijutsu and weapons mastery. "I might as well try," he said to himself. "Wait, if you're willing, I could use some help," Minato asked. "What was that?" "Oh, you want my help now, do you?" Mikoto taunted. "I was just teasing. Why are you always so stern?" "Live a little," Mikoto said as she took his kunai and shuriken to show him the correct way. "Trust me, I'm not in a hurry. I just want to propose to Mikoto-chan while wearing the Kaguya hat since she's helped me get here all this time," he answered honestly. "Wait, what? You want to marry the Uchiha heir?" Sandame replied, mentally cursing himself for not staying on top of this kind of stuff. "Well, yeah. I've known her for a long time, and I know she's the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. She's also very loyal to the village, and I know she'll help me out with my duties to the village," Minato explained. "I see," Sandame said as he took a big puff of his newest pack of smokes. "But have you considered what your marriage with Mikoto might do to her psyche? She does love you after all," Sandame pointed out. "I need you to think like a Kage for a minute. She just lost her entire village and clan in an attack by 3 great villages. She's grieving and blames us for not being for them. She's partially correct. We did chose to delay reinforcements to shore up our northern line to not give Kumo a path to the village. Now imagine if her best friend whom she had crushed on for years marries the only other person she lets her guard down with, Mikoto. In that case, she may very well lose all her bonds to the village. I want you to think about the danger of a Jinchuriki that isn't completely loyal to the village. And you know Kushina isn't one to hide her emotions. Everyone will get wind of her faltering loyalty, and the council will increase their calls for her to be reprogrammed in some mind control scheme or the creation of a new Jinchuriki," Sandame lectured. "Can you do that?" Sandame asked. Minato, strengthening his resolve, promised to marry Kushina and to be a loving husband. He and Kushina had been married for 2 years before she became pregnant, and the events of that fateful night passed. After many months of Kushina's comatose state, Minato could deny his heart no longer. He called Mikoto to his office at the top of Hokage Tower. As Mikoto entered the room, she said, "Hey, Minato, I see you're enjoying all the paperwork as always. So what's up?" she asked. Seeing Mikoto in all her dark beauty, Minato almost forgot what he wanted to say. "I just wanted to say if you wanted or had time later to catch a coffee or have something to eat," he stuttered. "Wait, don't go," Minato tried to say. "I always loved you," Minato exclaimed. Mikoto was taken aback by his confession. No one had ever said those words to her. Not even her husband, Fugaku, the current head of the Uchiha clan and commander of the Uchiha military police. "All right, one coffee tomorrow morning. But only as friends," she said. From that day, their relationship grew to the point where Mikoto divorced Fugaku and married Minato in a private ceremony. Now, with Mikoto pregnant with his child, He couldn't help but beam with excitement, especially considering later tonight they would have Mimna's birthday party attended by family and close friends. When other villages heard that he was in the hospital for a couple days after the QB attack, Iwa and Taki took the opportunity to attack the Hidden Leaf. However, thanks to Orochimaru, Konoha's forces were quickly organized to repel the threat. Even though Minato was still recovering, he knew he had to lead the charge. By himself, Minato was able to take out about a quarter of the enemy forces. The key victory allowed Konoha to form the Southern Alliance, which stipulated mutual economic and military cooperation. Yuna Namikaze was beaming today not only because she wouldn't have to go on any more missions for a while, but also because she would be able to spend all afternoon with her group of friends and then go home to dinner to Menma's birthday party. She was especially excited to show everybody that she completed the Hiration. Minato had been giving her lessons since she became a Chunin, and now she would be able to showcase it to everybody. She was absolutely ecstatic. As she was walking to Anko's apartment, she couldn't help but skip excitedly, pushing her untied blonde hair up and down as she went. As she neared the apartment, she was tackled by a mess of purple hair. Seriously, Yuna, why do you even bother? You know my snakes can beat your stinky frogs any day, Anko taunted. I'm sorry, Kurenai, but it's not my fault that Yuna won't accept the inherent superiority of the snake summons. And also, Yuna was way too happy and jumpy today, Anko answered. She's always like that, Anko. That doesn't mean start a summons battle in the middle of the street, Yugao lectured. No, that's not it. Yuna stuttered when everyone's attention turned to her as she turned pink. Someone doesn't want us to know about her first boyfriend. Don't worry, once I found out who it is, I'll let him experience things he could only dream about with you, Anko said while licking a kunai sensually. Then just tell us what it's really about, Yugao said straightforwardly. All right, but it's a village secret. I completed my own version of the Hiration, beamed Yuna. Congratulations, it's the new Yellow Flash. They're probably going to make you Jounin now. Everyone chorused, except for Anko. Okay, but let's go to Training Ground 44. There aren't many people there, Yuna said. Yippee. I'll lead the way. Destination, Forest of Death, Anko said while grinning and leading everyone to her second home. Once they climbed over the fence to the forest, Yuna took out a pink, stylized three-pronged kunai and threw it over to Anko. When the kunai passed Anko's ear, Yuna instantly transported there. Then, picking up the kunai, Yuna threw it over to Kurenai, who swiftly dodged it. However, not even a second later, Yuna was right behind her with a kunai to her throat. You're dead, Yuna said while smirking. Wow. Fast, Kurenai exclaimed when Yuna let her go. As everyone was commenting on Yuna's speed, Anko proclaimed, it's time to celebrate. To the bar. As everyone began moving out, Yuna was hesitant, saying, wait, I have Menma's birthday party later, and I have to show everyone the results of my training. I can't get drunk. Oh, don't worry, we won't leave you too hammered, Anko said while putting an arm around Yuna. Anko's statement, coincidentally, didn't make Yuna feel any better. Menma was running from yet another infuriated shopkeeper because of his latest prank, which involved lots of marshmallows and tons of pink paint. Menma couldn't stop a chuckle from escaping his lips at the thought of that panting civilian thinking he could catch a Namikaze, something even ninjas are hard-pressed to do. From the history lessons his father gave him, Menma knew that the Namikaze clan always specialized in speed techniques, and only their bodies can handle the stress of the Hiration. But that's actually the reason he pulled pranks so much. I didn't do anything. I promised Kakashi Nizan. How was I supposed to know that shopkeeper doesn't like pink marshmallows? Menma answered credulously. Kakashi had to suppress a chuckle hearing of Menma's latest prank. Truth is, he found them too humorous and they never failed to brighten his day, which in A and BU can be either dull and boring like today or dangerous and stressful. Now Menma, you can't keep doing these pranks. They always cause more paperwork for your father, and we can't keep paying for damages. We're not as rich as people think we are, Kakashi said in a bored tone that wasn't convincing at all. Seeing Menma looking at him incredulously, he said, Menma, if you stop doing pranks for a week, I'll teach you a new jutsu. Once they got home, Kakashi suspiciously asked Menma to open the door, something that Menma didn't miss. Ignoring his gut feeling, Menma opened the door only to hear a loud surprise, while all his family members and close family friends jumped out behind a large screen that simulated a wall. On the ceiling, the words, Happy Birthday Menma, were displayed prominently. Menma was caught off not just because he completely forgot that it was his birthday, but also because he was seeing his name displayed brightly in red, neon colors. Yes, these were people that saw him as Menma and not just the son of Konoha's greatest hero. In that moment, he didn't care what the village thought or what the world thought because at this moment, he truly felt as himself. Before he knew it, he became teary-eyed. Wiping the tears before they could fully form, Menma yelled, Yay, presents. Still shorter than me, said an irked Sasuke. Even though he and Menma practically grew up together, he still didn't see Menma as a true brother, unlike Itachi, whom Sasuke admired more than anybody. You're what, 5 now? They grow up so fast, congratulated Jiraiya. You're lucky you're taller than last year, Brad. Or I would have been annoyed that I came all the way here from across Fire Nation, said a slightly amused Tsunade. Oh, you're such a party pooper, Lady Tsunade, said Shizune as she smothered Menma. I believe the child is undergoing second-stage anemia. If you continue, he is liable to pass out, Orochimaru said. Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess I got carried away, Shizune said sheepishly. Huh, yes. I can breath, Menma said as his face returned to its natural hue. Thank you, Orochi-chan. Menma shouted loudly. As everyone began laughing at the snake Sannin's expense, Orochimaru became increasingly annoyed. Listen, here, brat. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to feed you to my snakes after I skewer you over a large grill and dip you into nicely aged sake, he warned. Everyone became quiet as Menma turned pale. All the people in the room understood that Orochimaru doesn't make threats. More like delayed promises. Instantly, the room returned to its jovial atmosphere as everyone enjoyed each other's company. Yuna then muttered, Sashi guys. We were late. We might have overdone it with the sake, Hana tried to explain. Everyone stood there stupefied for a moment as Yuna scratched the back of her head. Wow, you're so cool, Yunaniken, said Menma with stars in his eyes. Well, I guess I'm going to have to make you a jounin then. Get ready for more difficult and longer assignments, Minato said seriously. Oh, you really know how to ruin a moment, Minato. It's like you never change. Live a little. Mikoto said as she started throwing sprinkles at everybody. Kids at the playground at the Central Park of Konoha would either ignore him or try to stay away from him. He never understood why parents would tell their children to keep away from him. He never thought of himself as dangerous and never hurt a fly in his life. People would think that he couldn't hear their hushed whispers, but he found out from a young age that he had better hearing than most. He would always hear people calling him dangerous, demon, or evil. Naruto considered himself more intelligent than most kids his age, but he could never understand why people thought he was evil or a demon. He never heard of such a clan, and after listening to so many quiet conversations in the village through his enhanced hearing, he would have heard something, anything, about such a clan if it existed. Naruto was so lost in his thoughts as fatigue and tiredness took over him. He never heard the growing mob forming close to the orphanage. Today is the day of reckoning for all the suffering we went through 5 years ago, yelled another. Once the group reached their destination, they found a young boy half asleep at the doorstep of the orphanage. They, then, proceeded to brutally beat him down with all manner of household items they were carrying. After a while, the ninja leading the group decided to end the fun of the villagers and finally end the Jinchuriki's life. Unlike the clueless villagers, these ninja didn't just hate the Jinchuriki because they thought that he was the actual Kyuubi. Far from it, they understood the difference between a scroll and a kunai. But they used to be against Kushina Uzumaki living in the village. They always feared that the beast would be released as long as a demon container lived freely within the village. In 5 years, their worst nightmare came true as the Kyuubi was released right in the middle of the village. Why couldn't people realize the truth? But before they could complete their assassination, they were found themselves caught in a web of strong wood. Try as they might, they couldn't break free. And they couldn't use any techniques because the wood seemed to be sapping their chakra. As they slowly lost consciousness, the last thing they saw was an ENBU mask that seemed to be glaring at them. The ENBU operative codenamed Tenzo was having a bad day. First, a fire starts in the west side of the village and unidentified chakra signatures enter the barrier surrounding the village. Umbu HQ goes into high alert, forcing most of the ANBU to investigate and stem any first wave of invasion. However, it turns out to be a few bandits who say they were paid to cross Konoha's barrier, and the fires, although clearly arson, barely did any structural damage and no one was hurt. Tenzo immediately understood it was a setup and began scouring the village for the real target. And lo and behold, he comes across an attempt on Naruto's life. As he continued walking deeper into the sewer, he came across large bars like a cage closed off not by a handle, but by a large piece of paper with a kanji on it. Then out of nowhere came an enormous fox with shark-like teeth and 9 large tails. As he saw the fox appear, he was initially startled, but he felt no fear. I don't know. I was in a lot of pain, and then I woke up in here. Am I dead? Asked Naruto. Yes, you were being attacked by petty and scared humans. But you are not dead. I already healed your most of fatal wounds, and am almost done with the rest. I had to use my own, limited chakra to complete the task. So you need to stop letting those worthless humans hurt you, or you could actually die. Especially if the injuries are so severe that I don't have enough chakra to heal you, answered the Kyuubi. Don't you get it, human? If you die, then I die. And I'm the Kyuubi. I will not become the dominion of that cursed Shinigami, roared the Kyuubi. Kyuubi was stunned. It was like he wasn't talking to a 5-year-old human, but a defeated warrior. The intelligence and deductive skills of this child far outpaced the vast majority of his species even at this young age. However, he's still a child and has yet to form any emotional attachments. But I like you, answered the Kyuubi. You have to live for me, and in return I will live for you. If you trust and listen to me, I'll protect you from those pitiful humans, answered the Kyuubi. But I'm human, so why would you like me? Asked Naruto finally. Because you're not like all the other humans. Inside of you lives me, the most powerful demon in the continent. Other humans are pitiful creatures who only care about satiating their own greed and hurting others, particularly you, answered the Kyuubi. Call me Kurama, said the Kyuubi. After learning Kurama's name and a little of his backstory, Naruto was amazed to learn that he was a Jinchuriki, a container of the nine-tailed fox that attacked Konoha on the day of his birth. However, after telling him how he was going to help him and make him all great, Kurama just went back to sleep. Naruto tried everything to wake him up, including yelling, shouting, and even hurting himself. But nothing he did would bring the Kyuubi back to consciousness. Naruto's frustration only increased when he couldn't keep pretending to be asleep and had to deal with a flurry of doctors and nurses who would only look at him with eyes of disgust and loathing. After learning the truth, he really didn't want to deal with these hypocrites who actually thought he was the Kyuubi. But that didn't matter. From what he learned from Kurama, humans were by nature corrupt and vile. But what really irked Naruto were all the questions that some supposed doctor was asking him. He had light blonde hair tied in a ponytail and had a deep scar on his right eye. He introduced himself as a simple doctor, but he knew that he couldn't be a doctor. The questions he was asking were too weird and specific to be asked by a normal doctor, and that scar probably meant he was a ninja. Seriously, who did he think he was fooling? After leaving the hospital, Naruto was sent back to the orphanage. Naruto had a feeling that he was being watched, but ignored it, thinking it was just his paranoia after the events of the past few days. Only after a full week and a half did Kurama finally awaken. Kurama, why did you take so long to finally awaken? Naruto asked, his frustration showing slightly in his tone. But how can you help me if you're only awake for so little time? Asked Naruto suspiciously. How can you give general principles and point you in the direction you need to go? For the rest, you need to learn on your own, answered Kurama. Okay, but if you're the great demon fox, how did you get sealed away without any of your chakra? Asked Naruto naively. So you do remember our talk from a week ago? Yes, Bijou can't die because as demons we're not dominions of the Shinigami. However, this particular seal summons the Shinigami to seal away all my chakra while leaving my sentience sealed within you. When you die, the Shinigami will use the Sandame's life force and chakra to seal me within his belly. When all is said and done. So that's why you want me to find a way to get you out of this seal, realized Naruto. Yes, I hate to feel dependent on another. I suppose it's my fault for being so prideful and oblivious. But I need you to find a way for me to get out of this seal. In the meantime, however, you need to make sure you don't receive any more lethal injuries. There may come a time when I just don't have the chakra to heal you completely, and if that happens we both die, said the Kyuubi. I understand. But I don't know any jutsus or even how to fight, said Naruto. I can't you teach you how to fight or handle weapons or even any human chakra techniques you call jutsus. I only know about pure chakra manipulation. The rest you're going to have to learn from a teacher, answered the Kyuubi. When do we start then? Asked Naruto as he began to jump up and down. Feel deep inside and follow the rhythm of your body until you reach it. I can't find it, complained Naruto after a while. Wait, that doesn't make any sense, Naruto replied as he sat there confused. Inoichi Yamanaka should be happy today considering he would be going to his little girl's birthday party later today, and he already picked out the perfect present. Even though put the Yamanaka clan short for a while, it is report for his little Ino. Thinking like that maybe his wife had a point when she says we spoil her too much, and that she grow up to be a spoiled little girl with fangirl tendencies. Nah, that would never happen, Inoichi reassured himself. But all day, he couldn't look forward to the special occasion because he had to visit one Naruto Uzumaki in the hospital and conduct a mental evaluation without using any of his mind techniques. He literally had to reopen the old textbooks to freshen up on topics he hasn't used in a long time. But the worst part about it is that he couldn't come to a clear diagnosis, and now he had to report all this to the Hokage. Let's see Shikaku Nara beat this in the troublesome scale, he thought to himself as he opened the door to the Hokage's office. Oh no, I was just finishing some last-minute work before heading home. Is there something you need, Inoichi? Minato asked. Yes, I just wanted to go over my evaluation of Naruto, answered Inoichi. It wasn't sudden, but slowly over time, they started thinking about him less and less as they were caught up in their lives. But, hopefully, Inoichi's report can shed some light on Naruto's status, and their family could start to heal. What do you have for me, Inoichi? asked Minato. What I mean is that I estimate that Naruto is at least teenager or young adult in intelligence, and from reading all the texts in the area, I can say with confidence that shouldn't be possible, replied Inoichi. But that's not all. He has a distinct hate for humanity. From your observations, what would you say? Is he the QB, or is he human? Asked Minato. Very well, thank you, Inoichi. You're dismissed, Minato said. Hi, Hokage-sama. Inoichi replied as he left through the front door. Konoha also now offers the largest salaries for ninjas, increasing its ranks to one of the largest, second only to Kumo, which trains even talentless civilians in the ninja arts. Konoha also has the highest quality shinobi, and with its emphasis on teamwork, it also has one of the lowest mission casualties lists. This isn't even accounting for such powerful battle-oriented clans as the Uchiha, Hyuga, and Akimichi, or clans that provide other essential services such as the Nara in intelligence and strategies, the Yamanaka in information gathering, and the Kurama in Jinjutsu and illusions. Danzo knew all this made Konoha by far the strongest nation on the continent, and yet he couldn't ignore all the warning signs pointing to trouble. Konoha's large economy is only supported because of favorable treaties and trade deals with IWA and Suna, two of the big five who are increasingly agitating to get back their former glory, as well as one-sided economic agreements with many small villages around Konoha's borders. While there's no evidence right now that such an alliance is forming, he knew it would only be a matter of time. The world eventually united against Yuzu, and Konoha is likely next. In the contented and peaceful state Konoha is in now, it would never be able to hold off an alliance that large. This all thanks to that poisonous ideology of the Sandaime. His ideas of diplomacy and peaceful coexistence have no place in the ninja world today. And today, the foremost preacher of this ideology is that brat Minato and his sensei. Really, if it weren't for Orochimaru's successful efforts to weaken all our enemies economically for their folly, Konoha would have been in dire straits a long time ago. But Orochimaru should have gone further and weakened them militarily as well to end any possibility of revenge. And he knew the perfect way to do it. He would need to train the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi and get it firmly under his control. Then, the Jinchuriki would kill Minato, and through some political maneuvering, he would have himself installed as the Godame Hokage. With the Jinchuriki of the most powerful Bijou under his control, the world would bow before Konoha's might. What made the plan even more sweet is that the Jinchuriki is obviously Minato's son. Even though Danzo couldn't get any more spies within Hokage Tower because of Orochimaru, anybody and their grandmother could tell that child is a cross between Kushina and Minato. Yes, very soon, Konoha would in a real golden age. Oh, I just wanted to talk about certain policies. I have admit you've done wonders for the village, but I'm still concerned about increases in farmers' subsidies and what that might do to the annual budgetary decisions next week, Danzo replied. I don't know what you mean, Elder San. The Farmers Association petitioned for increases, and I signed them into law, Minato said questioningly. Well, I mean many in the council will ask for certain cuts because these increases may put us back a little, and they've asked for cuts to the orphanage in the past, replied Danzo. Minato tried to rack his brain around Danzo's request. He's never been interested in agriculture or in the orphanage. Why couldn't he just be straightforward? Usually, Orochimaru would deal with this kind of stuff. Wait. What if he's not interested in the orphanage, but someone in the orphanage? Naruto. He should have guessed as much. Why do you want to train the Jinchuriki, Danzo? Asked Minato questioningly. I think it's very dangerous to have an untrained Jinchuriki in the village, Hokage-sama. Not only could he accidentally draw upon the Bijou's chakra, other villages might see it as a weakness when they themselves have perfect Jinchurikis to call upon, said Danzo. I know you have concerns, Hokage-sama, but if you allow me train our Jinchuriki, I would make it absolutely certain his loyalties lie with the village alone. A loyal Jinchuriki would be a great asset to our military forces, replied Danzo. Even if Minato didn't agree, Danzo already had plans to get the Kyuubi under his control. Asking is just the easiest way. From Inoichi's report, Naruto is most likely the Kyuubi. Even Jiraiya told him he's being too soft, and that he had to stop calling him Naruto. According to everybody, Naruto died the night of his birth, and all that's left of him is his body and the Kyuubi's consciousness. Call it father's intuition or wishful thinking. But Minato just had this feeling that Naruto is still in there, and could he really order the execution of his son? But if he sent him with Danzo, Root might be able to get the Kyuubi under control. A tall task, he knew, to try and get an ancient being under the Leaf's control. But even if Danzo couldn't get the Kyuubi under his control, maybe the training could have Naruto's consciousness resurface. No matter how slim the chance, he had to take it. As a father, all right, Danzo, you will train the Jinchuriki for a time period. You will also give me periodic reports of the Jinchuriki's progress, and if I find the progress to be unsatisfactory, You will be taken off this task, ordered Minato. Danzo was stunned for a minute. Why would Minato agree so quickly? He always disagreed with his methods. Then again, someone who would send their son away, even if he's a Jinchuriki, to live as a disgrace in the orphanage, might not disagree with him being trained the root way from a young age. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Don't disappoint me, said Minato as Danzo got up to leave. Parrying a blow aimed for his head, Naruto pushed a kunai into the belly of another enemy. Seeing the enemy go pale as his sword went limp and seeing his friend's guts on the ground, Naruto took the opportunity to relieve his distracted enemy of his head. With that, the last enemy still fighting went down. As Naruto jumped from tree branch to tree branch, the only thing he could think about is that Danzo would be pleased with another successfully completed mission. But this mission was different, he thought to himself. He knew Danzo would likely give him a commendation tomorrow, and what could be more important than serving Danzo? He asked himself rhetorically. Originally, he wanted to be the only one to have an emotional connection with Naruto, but with Danzo in the picture he couldn't do that. Really, the only thing that he could do is stop the seals that Danzo keeps reapplying liberally throughout Naruto's body by overloading them with demonic chakra. Some seals were to stop any discussion of roots and Danzo's secrets, while others were plain mind control seals. However, they would disappear after Kurama awoke. But Kurama knew not to underestimate the effects of verbal and situational propaganda, and the effects can be clearly seen in his container. What the QB needed was somebody to connect with Naruto emotionally. Somebody loyal to the QB only. Kurama grinned as he remembered that old fox he gave some of his chakra to so he could protect his pack. Now where did he meet him? Ah, yes, the mountain range in the northwest. What do they call that place now? Now he remembered. 6 months later, Danzo was pleased with his investment in the root operative Kitsune, Naruto. The kid was natural learner and took up the shinobi arts like glue to paper. Danzo was especially pleased in Naruto's aptitude to infiltration and other covert shinobi arts. In the simulations, he always got the highest marks. His leadership skills were noteworthy, as well as he consistently led his teams to success. But what really impressed Danzo is Naruto's aptitude for ninjutsu. He has dual affinities in wind and water, which is impressive by itself, but what was really amazing is the kid's ability to practically learn jutsus in his sleep. Regardless, the kid was slowly growing an emotional attachment to him and completing his missions perfectly. Danzo would just have make an effort keep Naruto out of the loop of any sensitive material. If that is price for a perfect tool, then so be it, he thought to himself as he went through the missions that needed to be completed today. Kitsune, you will lead a team to the land of hot water and assassinate a lower noble by the name of Kinshur Abuware and his bodyguards. You will make his death look like the work of wandering bandits. His death will allow us to expand roots and Konoha's presence farther west. Tora, you will lead a mission to the land of Earth to investigate reports from our spies that they have expanded their ninja program. You will make sure your presence is not discovered, and if it is, kill all witnesses and erase all evidence of your existence. Begin preparations now. Both teams will leave tomorrow morning, commanded Danzo. Hearing a chorus of "Hi, Danzo-sama," Danzo left to go to his office. He had plans to make. As Naruto was walking back his room to get ready for the mission tomorrow, he heard rumblings inside his mindscape. You should be a little more appreciative, Kit. I did keep awake for all those hours and help you with your chakra control and manipulation, said Kurama. Whatever, what is it that you need? You don't usually come out just to start a conversation, Naruto said. Don't listen to everything he says, Kit. Everyone has emotions, and it doesn't make you any worse of a shinobi for having them, Kurama tried to explain, but seeing Naruto keep his blank look instead said, just do it. There's something that will make you a lot stronger, Kurama suggestively implied. Something that will give you an edge over others, Kurama replied. Why won't you tell me what it is? What are you hiding? Naruto asked. Just do it. Kit, you'll thank me later, Kurama said. Turning around to go to Danzo's office, he said, all right, but if Danzo gets angry, it's your fault. I wanted to lead the mission to Rock Country. I've been to a few countries, but have never traveled to one of the big 5-inch, Naruto asked cautiously. This was the complete opposite of what they read about in the spies' reports Danzo gave them for this mission. This seems very suspicious. IWA, it likely has another location where they're training other recruits in their more secretive program. I will scout out ahead while you guys stay here and make camp. I want you to make notes on anything you find here. We will meet up in 2 weeks at the rendezvous. If I'm more than 2 days late, assume I've been captured and report to Danzo immediately, Naruto said. As Naruto made his way west of the training grounds, he thought of Kurama's odd request. He told him to leave his team and asked them to meet back up in 2 weeks' time, and then to travel west of the IWA training grounds to where several mountains meet up in the harsh interior of Rock Country. Naruto only hoped his teammates didn't get suspicious of his activities. It is unlike a root captain to leave his teammates to go on a solo mission. Then again, what is he worrying about? His teammates are like robots. They probably couldn't think for themselves if they tried. He just hoped that he was going in the right direction and that Kurama woke up soon. He really didn't like being behind enemy territory alone. Right now, he was only Chunin level in strength, even with his Jounin chakra reserves. And if an IWA patrol found him alone, it would probably be the end for him. As Naruto neared the area that Kurama indicated, Naruto became amazed by the terrain, mountain after mountain as far as the eye could see. When he squinted, he could make the outline of 3 mountains that seemed to come together and make some kind of odd pattern. It must be where Kurama said to go. As these thoughts swiveled through Naruto's head, it was then that Kurama decided to wake up. I guess the little young one made it, but he's actually thinking of climbing dozens of mountains to reach the point? He must be more naive than I thought he was, Kurama said to himself. Ah, you're awake. You're right. I should go scavenge for some supplies, Naruto said. Besides, the IWA sun and rocky sand, as well as the large amount of magnetic flux in the area, create powerful mirages that imitate the effects of the most powerful jinjutsu, explained Kurama. And since it's not a chakra technique, you can't dispel it, realized Naruto. What am I supposed to do? Asked Naruto. Why did you even bring me here if it's impossible to cross this impenetrable wasteland? Naruto complained. Calm down, kid. I brought you here because this is a place I would come to rest. It's also the place I met an old fox struggling to care for his litter. It was during the old clan war days of constant fighting and hunger, so desperate humans would hunt his kind for food. Without any chakra, they were powerless against the humans. Follow my chakra signature. Even after so many years, it should still be prominent in the area. It should lead you to the area. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to catch up with some rest, Kurama said as he dozed off to sleep. Naruto walked aimlessly for hours through the rocky scenery until he felt familiar chakra to his left. Following it, he started feeling it getting stronger. As Naruto kept walking, he came upon a large mountain. However, the chakra signature only got stronger near it. Realizing he needed to climb it, he began circulating chakra through his hands and feet. But once he reached the mountain, instead of being able to climb it, he instead phased through it. What is going on, he thought to himself as he tried to get up from falling on the floor. I could have sworn that mountain looked solid, he thought, perplexed. Naruto cursed his luck. Kurama was asleep, and he had to convince angry old wolf foxdog thing of who he is. But he couldn't do that since he couldn't move because of some jinjutsu the canine put on him through that musical tone he heard. Come to think of it, Naruto never heard of a music-based jinjutsu before. He didn't think more would be required because it is such a rare art with few, if any, shinobi of a village specializing in it. The only really powerful jinjutsu practitioners in the shinobi world are the Kurama and Uchiha, but they're both on Konoha's side, so Naruto never thought deep study in the subject was ever required. Who are you talking to, kid? How many people you got? Hurry up and answer. I don't got all day, demanded the old canine. I need you to flare your chakra to get me out of this jinjutsu, said Naruto quickly. I sleep for a little bit, and you already get yourself in trouble, Kurama said, disappointed as he flared his demonic chakra. At that same moment, Naruto was covered in a small layer of demonic chakra that immediately dissipated because of Kurama's low reserves. But it did its job and ended the paralysis jinjutsu placed on Naruto. Seeing that the young one was not lying, the old canine quickly said, "Forgive me for my insolence, but I had to make sure you weren't an intruder. If I may ask, why did you come all the way here?" "I haven't seen Kurama in ages," asked the old canine. "I'm an orphan, so I don't know," said Naruto. Naruto was stunned. Summoning contracts are notoriously rare and well-guarded village treasures. Even doing a general summoning to try your luck and getting one very rarely ends in success. Most who try it are devoured by whatever creatures live in the summoning realm they are transported to. "You don't have much of a personality, do you?" said Takahashi. "All right. If you're going to get a proper partner, I need to know your strengths and weaknesses," he added. "I'm pretty average with taijutsu and jinjutsu, but I excel at ninjutsu and weapons usage, especially my tanto," replied Naruto. "Which elements can you do?" Takahashi asked. "I have very strong affinities to both wind and water, although I only recently started learning jutsus with my water element. I know a lot of wind jutsus though," Naruto explained. "But they would also have to be young so you guys could grow together." "Ah, there's like no one with those qualifications." "Wait, Suzuki might work. He's only 1 year old and is already good at jinjutsu and has a strong fire affinity. He would have to work on his taijutsu though." "Oh well, can't get them all, right?" Takahashi added. Seeing that he wouldn't get an answer, he said, "I asked you if you want Suzuki as a partner." "Oh, sorry. Yes, I would be honored," said Naruto respectfully. "What is up with this kid?" thought Takahashi. "Okay, I want you to bite your finger again and do a summoning jutsu like you did last time. But this time, think of a small, red fox named Suzuki," said Takahashi. When Naruto did as the white-blue fox instructed, a small, red fox with black stripes on its back appeared in a puff of smoke. Eep. Where am I? Takahashi Nizan. Is that you? Squeaked out the little fox. Oh. Hee. I'm Suzuki. What's your name? Asked Suzuki sheepishly. Naruto was seriously getting tired of introducing himself, and the antics of these foxes wasn't helping. I'm Naruto, he replied. You should also train with Suzuki to get a feel for your partner and his fighting style, and come up with some combination jutsus, as well as team tactics. But since you came to us to get stronger, I think Takahashi should be more than happy to help you with your water element since he has good mastery over water. I shall help you with your Jinjutsu since you're so weak in that area. We can't teach you our Taijutsu style since you're two-legged, but we can help you develop your own, explained Watanabe. If that's the case then, we only have enough time for you to get acquainted with Suzuki and maybe for Takahashi to teach you a few water jutsu. You'll have to rely on Suzuki for Jinjutsu for now. When you get back to your village, we can pick up your training, replied Watanabe. I'm sorry, but Kurama wants to keep our association a secret for now, so I might not be able to train back home, Naruto said as his eyes became despondent. That's all right. The Fox clan specializes in the more covert shinobi arts. Trust me, you'll be able to study under us without anyone noticing, said Watanabe's gruff voice confidently. We'll be able to teach you inside your village without anyone noticing, said Watanabe. You know he just came from a mission. He's not going to be happy if you send him again. Honestly, I don't know why you like messing with him so much, said Watanabe frustratingly. It's just that he blows up every time he gets a new mission. I can't help myself, Takahashi tried to explain. Although their combinations were pretty powerful, Suzuki only had reserves to do 2 or 3 of them in a battle. Even though Takahashi explained that Suzuki will grow his chakra reserves as he grows up, Naruto was still a little disappointed. But that might just be because he has unnaturally large reserves, and unlike him, Suzuki is not a freak of nature. But Naruto really admired Suzuki for his Jinjutsu skills. He didn't notice the 2 bells tied to Suzuki's neck because they were hidden by a powerful Jinjutsu. He could now adequately dispel high-level or multi-layered Jinjutsu, and his Taijutsu, while still not the best, was getting better. Naruto now estimated his skills as at least Jounin level, and if he got help from his Fox summons, particularly Suzuki, he could take down most high-level opponents. As these thoughts went through Naruto's head, he missed the fact that they crossed into Rice's borders. Taisha-sama, we have entered Rice country. Shouldn't we check our perimeter and make camp? Asked the alligator-masked operative Wani. Mentally berating himself for his absent-mindedness, Naruto replied, Yes, we should. Make camp at that clearing, while I check our perimeter and make traps, said Naruto. They are especially supposed to gain intelligence on the new leader of the rebels that is cutting supply lines for the rice daimyo. As Naruto discreetly observed the country, he began to see why the people here would rebel. The country really is in poor straits. All of the towns that Naruto visited had only poor, run-down buildings, with many of the buildings looking like they went through previous battles. The stores are poorly stocked, a result of the bad harvest that Naruto noticed as he made his way through Rice's fields. You should help them, suggested Kurama. Why would I do that? You know that these humans don't deserve any sympathy, said Naruto incredulously. Kurama mentally sighed. He had to get Naruto out of this idea that all humans are bad. While it was his fault that Naruto thought that way, but back then it served a purpose. Now it was preventing Naruto from making any human attachments at all. What's even worse is that Naruto was becoming more and more obedient to Danzo. The irony was not lost on Kurama considering that Danzo is human. However, Danzo gives Naruto's life purpose and meaning. Moreover, Danzo's constant propaganda doesn't help. If Kurama couldn't get Naruto out of Danzo's thumb, his own plan for freedom might be in jeopardy. He, however, could see Naruto's personality and emotions as a success. Kurama noticed that every time that Naruto interacts with his Fox summons, his mood instantly brightens as he starts showing a little of his real self. Now all the Kyuubi has to do is provide Naruto with a new purpose in life. And protecting these humans in this backward country might just be it. These humans are different from those we have seen in Konoha, and I'm not talking about their poverty. Look more closely, said Kurama. Naruto squinted his eyes to try and see what Kurama was talking about. He couldn't really see anything different. They're suffering from extreme poverty, that much was obvious. Maybe Kurama wasn't talking about their material conditions. Possibly their behaviors? Naruto wondered what made them so determined to survive and help each out in the face of poor odds. Certainly, he would have given a long time ago if it wasn't for Kurama and Danzo. Shaking his head to get his hair settled correctly, he walked through one of the streets of Rice's capital. He saw kids pointed fingers at him while the adults looked at him curiously. However, Naruto was a little surprised to see that the people here didn't look at him with hate and disgust in their eyes. Before she could, however, he grabbed her hand and held it up. "Oh, let me go," she yelled. "You're the one trying to steal my stuff," Naruto said. "No, I wasn't it. And he's an intruder," Erasure, you should take him to Damyao-sama, she said while rubbing her wrists. Oh, I was just traveling. I have to wonder though. This country is falling apart. Why stay? Naruto asked. You haven't heard? Where have you been for the past 5 years? Said Erasure incredulously. Oh, don't worry, Sasami. I haven't seen any of the Damyao's men this young, or anyone with red hair for that matter. Since you're obviously clueless, I'll fill you in on this country's history. My cousin and I are from the Fuma clan. We used to be a renowned ninja clan that specialized in the use of our powerful ninja tools. Our economy, largely dependent on agriculture, dropped significantly, putting most of us into poverty. Worse, Konoha forced us to sell many of our clan's secrets, including our coveted Fuma shuriken. Our once proud Fuma clan was reduced into becoming vassals by our greedy Damyao and his samurai, who went along with Konoha's policies without even trying to fight back. They get most of the benefits of the economy while the rest of us starve, explained Erasure. But why? You'll die? Even now, Konoha is sending more and more shinobi to end the rebellion, said Naruto, not understanding what drove these shinobi. Haven't you seen the state of our people? Even though we might be hungry and tired, we won't give up until the last of us is buried in the ground. Konoha can send as many shinobi it wants. As long as even a few of us live, our determination will be carried on, Erasure said optimistically. This is why I said you should help these people, Kurama said. Those filthy Konoha people think they can step over everybody and get away with it. Their insolence disgusts me, he added. Yeah, but what could I do? I'm just a single kid. The Damyao is bound to have hundreds of samurai, and even a few Konoha shinobi guarding him, replied Naruto. If you summon half the Fox clan here, about 40 members, with the rebels' help you could take out most of the loyal Rice shinobi and the samurai. You could take out the few Konoha shinobi the Damyao has with him, explained Kurama. Tonight? That's too little time to organize everybody. And you would need an army kid to beat the Damyao's forces. Besides, how do we know we can trust you? Asked Erasure. I have my ways. And if you can trust me or not, let's just say seeing the plight of your people makes me remember how I used to be. You'll just have to have faith when I say you can trust me, Naruto said as he left in Shunshin of Wind. You both failed, and as your Taicho, I have the authority to execute you, Naruto said as he finished the hand signs for his jutsu. Wind release. Wind explosion, Naruto shouted as a ball of unstable wind hurled towards his teammate. Wow, that many clones and they're solid, said an amazed Erasure as murmurs of amazement and approval went through the group of rebels. Naruto, however, grew tired and pale as most of his chakra was siphoned off to his clones. Only 50, he thought to himself. I really need to work on increasing my reserves, Naruto promised himself. Okay, I want 20 of your men, Erasure. They'll be coming with me as we attack the front of the palace. I want you to lead the rest of your men to attack the back of the palace 10 minutes later when chaos breaks out, Naruto explained. Making his way to the Damyao, Naruto cut off his head much to the fanfare of the cheering crowds of rebels. Seeing his red fox help him take down the Damyao's men and Konoha shinobi, the rebels began shouting, Red Fox, Red Fox, Red Fox. Erasure came up to Naruto and said, Thank you. You saved our country and my clan. Truly, we are in your debt. Wait, you can't leave. We need a strong leader or we'll surely fall. You have to lead this country. You have to lead us, pleaded Erasure. Don't worry. I plan to return. But until then I appoint you Erasure as leader of Rice. In my absence, make sure no one enters Rice or leaves it. Information about what happened here tonight shouldn't leave this room. Especially make sure that no one learns how I look. Wait, what? But that's the reason we fought today. To be free of Konoha, said Erasure. Don't worry. I'll do my best to ensure Rice's safety until you return, Erasure promised confidently. Danzo just became even more frustrated. Who was this new leader who took over Rice? Was he a new threat to Konoha? There's no word of Rice changing the favorable treaties with Konoha. What is he up to? Danzo thought to himself. Yes, he would send a few teams to scout out the Fire Rice border and maybe get a look at what's happening in the country. 2 weeks later, he almost lost his composure and laughed when Danzo told him that his 4th team, to Rice, didn't come back at all. When Naruto told him that the enemy was using some kind of time-stopping techniques, he knew Danzo would waste valuable assets trying to find out what those techniques are and who uses them. Naruto wasn't completely lying. The fox's sound-based Jinjutsu acts as a sort of time stopper because to one caught it in it, it seems his opponent's movements are going much faster. But Naruto couldn't just chuckle at Danzo's expense. He had a country to protect now and to properly to protect Rice. He had to gain proper intelligence about Danzo and Konoha in general. That's why he was going to use his break time to sneak into Danzo's office and library to find more about Danzo's and Konoha's secrets. Naruto created 2 shadow clones. He gave the first shadow clone just enough chakra that it wouldn't automatically dispel if someone hit it. He then had the second shadow clone use the perfect henge technique to transform into a fly that would dispel to alert the real Naruto if there was trouble or if he was found out. Naruto learned many covert infiltration techniques from the old Fox Watanabe, including the perfect henge. These techniques allowed the Fox clan to travel far and wide and learn many human chakra techniques. However, perfect henge required demonic Fox chakra. Naruto stopped sifting through scrolls when he came upon a scroll that had his name on it. Quickly reading it, Naruto was stunned when he read the results of his blood work. He is the son of Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. He took a step back as he tried to process this information. This is crazy. I can't be the Yandame's son. He's the golden Hokage, and I'm just the demon brat, hated and reviled. This is impossible. If it were true, I would be the golden prince, just like Menma Namikaze, he thought. Then it hit Naruto like a brick wall. He would take over Konoha and bring a new order to the world. Then, there can finally be peace, he said to himself as he continued looking over scrolls pertaining to Konoha's power structure and Danzo's plans to take power. Minato Namikaze was having another bad day as the paperwork in his office grew by the hour. It was all because of the power struggle between the Uchiha and Hyuga, the two largest and most powerful clans in Konoha. Minato couldn't believe it, but he actually wished council meetings would become boring again. Almost every issue brought before the council would end with the Hyuga on one side and the Uchiha on the other. If Minato knew that marrying Mikoto would cause such strife in the village, he might have rethought the marriage proposal. On second thought, no, he wouldn't. These days, he couldn't be happier, he thought. He treasured every moment he had with her, and he knew she dearly loved him back. Their daughter Narumi is turning 3 in a few days, and Minato couldn't be more proud. She has his golden yellow hair, but Mikoto's deep, black eyes. Hearing his sensei's voice broke Minato out of his thoughts. "Ah, it's nice to see you, sensei. Where have you been? You've been gone for 2 weeks, and no one has heard from you," Minato replied. "Yeah, before we get to that, you should know that the Hyuga accepted the marriage contract between Menma Uzumaki Namikaze and Hinata Hyuga," Jiraiya replied. "You don't seem too concerned that essentially forcing your son into a marriage he has no idea about. You didn't even leave in a clause where he can get out if he doesn't love Hyuga heiress," said a concerned Jiraiya. "I know you see Menma as a grandson, but we have to think about the village on this one. I've been hearing rumors of some of the main house elders of the Hyuga planning some kind rebellion to force the village to give more concessions to them. I had to make sure to end any thoughts of rebellion before they become cemented, and putting a clause like that would make them think we're not being honest," Minato explained. "What are you going to do about the Uchiha?" asked Jiraiya. "What is he playing at?" explained Minato. "I hope you're right, Jiraiya. Regardless, I'm going to take a harder line with the Uchiha from now on. If the carrot doesn't work, then the only thing left is the stick. Since the most of the Uchiha clan supports me and Mikoto, hopefully Fugaku will change course or be replaced," Minato replied. 2 weeks ago, answered Jiraiya. "And you waited that long to tell me about it," Minato said incredulously. "I had to make sure it was true. They didn't change any policies or treaties towards us, but when my contacts in the region stopped reporting to me, I knew something was up. I've been investigating the rice border for the past few weeks. It might have been powerful genjutsu to make themselves invisible, though. I don't know. I didn't think I would encounter such powerful genjutsu outside the Kurama or Uchiha clans. And they certainly didn't fight like they walked on 2 feet," Jiraiya clarified. "Do you think they're a threat? Should I send a couple of squads of Konoha shinobi to restore the royal family of rice?" asked Minato. "Anybody left would be too far from the royal line to matter, and if there's no one legitimate enough to take the throne, it could throw rice into endless civil wars and destabilize the wider region. Besides, we're not officially supposed to be in the country, that's why we had Root protect the Dumyao. If other countries get wind of cracks in the Southern Alliance, it could jeopardize our entire foreign policy," Jiraiya explained in detail. "Yeah, you're right. But I still want you to keep trying to get information about the country, its defenses, and the ruling clique," Minato said. "I'm married and have kids, Jiraiya. What do you think Mikoto is going to say if I come home past midnight?" Minato asked. "Oh, loosen up. This job's going to get you faster than you realize. You need some time to relax. Just tonight, come with me to the bar. You can't deny you're poor, old sensei, now can you?" said Jiraiya. "All right, just for tonight," Minato said as he got up to leave. Jiraiya was right. He couldn't deny his sensei, who did so much for him. He was just an orphan from a no-name clan, but he made him his apprentice, taught him his most secretive and powerful techniques, and put him on the path to becoming Hokage. But as Minato locked the door to his office, he just knew he was going to regret this in the morning. Fugaku Uchiha couldn't be more excited. He was finally finishing up his plans to seize control of Konoha. Ever since that fool Minato took power, he has been giving the Uchiha more and more rights, and now they had enough influence to stage an open rebellion. And he would show Makoto just how big of a mistake she made when she chose to divorce him for that brat of a Hokage. Fugaku sincerely loved Makoto and had two wonderful sons because of her, Itachi, a clan prodigy, and Sasuke, who is not far behind. With this power, even Minato's Hiraishin will become useless to his Susanoo since Kunai's can't get through the chakra armor. As Fugaku kept thinking about his power, he couldn't help but get even more excited. The only thing that lowered Fugaku's good mood is thinking about his wayward son, Itachi. He should have never sent him to root. The only reason he did it was because back then the Uchiha clan was severely ostracized in the village, and it was good to have an ally like Danzo. But ever since Itachi joined, he has become more and more emotionless, and his love for the clan was slowly replaced with love for the village. He just knew that the accusations that his son had anything to do with Shursui Uchiha's death were wrong. Fugaku only hoped that Itachi made the right choice and chose his clan and his father in the end. With his prodigy son at his side and the Manjikyu, no one would be able to stop him. Yes, soon, everyone will speak his name in fear and awe. 3 weeks later, Minato was furious. He just got wind that the Fugaku was planning a rebellion even though he gave him concession after concession without asking for anything in return. Even more frustratingly, it was Danzo that brought him this information, and that old warhawk just had to rub it in by reminding him that it was his policies that reversed Nidaime Hokage's laws that isolated the Uchiha, allowed them to infiltrate every sect of Konoha's forces. The only saving grace in the whole mess is that only about 20 shinobi joined Fugaku, with the vast majority of the Uchiha clan supporting Makoto and him. If hundreds of Uchiha clansmen decided to openly rebel, Konoha would be plunged into a disastrous civil war that would likely start a fourth great shinobi war. However, 20 highly trained Uchiha clansmen can still do a lot of damage and hold key areas hostage, putting the village into a standstill. Minato knew he would have deal with this quietly and swiftly, but first, he would have to consult with Makoto. He couldn't have this incident hurt his relationship with his beloved wife. After a couple more minutes of contemplation, Minato heard a knock on his door as Makoto entered the room. "You called for me, Minato? You know you don't have to send those ANBU to have a chat with me," Makoto said playfully. "What could it possibly be?" Makoto asked worriedly. "Fugaku is leading a rebellion with 20 of his clansmen. They plan to hold key areas of the village hostage," Minato said. "What? What are you going to do?" asked an anxious Makoto. Minato knew the time for talking was over and the time for action was now. But he couldn't disappoint his Makoto. "What to do? What to do? Ah, that's it. All I have to do is order Danzo's root forces to stop the rebellion. Then, I could explain to Makoto that Danzo went against orders and killed the perpetrators of the rebellion. Then he could accuse Danzo of killing prominent Uchiha clan members to harvest their eyes. This would allow him to execute Danzo and kill the root forces involved in the incident. With this plan, he could get the root forces, which have been so helpful in underhanded and morally ambiguous missions, under his thumb, and Makoto could get justice for Fugaku. Everyone would win, he thought to himself. Makoto was so happy and proud that she had such an understanding husband that she went and hugged Minato tightly. This just made her love Minato that much more. "You call for me, Hokage-sama," said Danzo neutrally. Danzo thought about this order. It was certainly unusual. A Hokage would want to use his own ANBU forces to keep control of this situation. Unless Minato wants to use this as an excuse to finally get rid of me, Danzo thought. Well, Danzo's been playing this game since this brat's parents were in diapers. All I have to do is have Kitsune lead the mission to end the rebellion. Minato can't execute the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and will be forced to sweep this under the rug, Danzo thought to himself strategically. Later that day, "You called for me, Danzo-sama," Naruto said, kneeling. "Yes, you are to lead a mission vital to village security. Make no mistake, this is the most important mission you have ever been involved in. Failure is not an option. Do you accept?" asked, more like demanded, Danzo. "Hi, Danzo-sama," said Naruto immediately. "Hi, Danzo-sama," Naruto said as he disappeared in a shunshin of wind. Naruto was nervous but also excited. Today, he would stop the Uchiha revolt to take over the village. He already divided his root ANBU into 5 teams of 10 team members, each to protect the 5 areas the Uchiha were going to attack today. Since Fugaku only had 20 shinobi to command, he knew 50 shinobi, almost a third of Root's forces, was a bit overkill. But he also knew that it never pays to underestimate highly trained Uchiha clansmen whose battle prowess is legendary. Fugaku was an elite jounin before becoming the Uchiha clan head, and it was not going to be easy fighting him, especially without his summons, since they would be fighting inside the village and Naruto couldn't have anyone know about his summons just yet. That's why he gave specific orders to the Chromast operative Karasu, aka Itachi, to have his team quickly dispatch their opponents so he could help him take Fugaku. Naruto just hoped all this preparation is enough. As Naruto and his 9 teammates hid in the trees close to the water plant, they saw Fugaku and 3 other Uchiha enter the water treatment facility. After a while, they heard screams which were growing fainter by the minute. Okay, I want you guys to split up into 3 teams of 3 and take down one of the clansmen Fugaku brought with him each while I take down Fugaku alone. Once you are done with your opponent, I want you to immediately come help me with Fugaku, Naruto ordered. Seeing Naruto calmly getting closer to him, Fugaku said, "So the Hokage sent me a brat pretending to be Anbu. How insulting." Fugaku was stunned at the speed and power of this kid's jutsu. He must have insane reserves, he thought to himself. However, his Sharingan quickly told him the path to go to avoid the jutsu. Avoiding the destructive technique, Fugaku did his own hand seals and shouted fire release. Great fireball jutsu, as a large ball of fire consumed Naruto. Seeing the charred body of Naruto puff out of existence, Fugaku instantly became alert. His Sharingan showing him that the real Naruto is behind him and preparing to strike him with Tanto, Fugaku instantly did hand seals for another jutsu. Blocking the Tanto with his chakra-covered boot, Fugaku shouted, "Fire release! Fire Phoenix Jutsu." Naruto felt a deep pain as his face and chest were hit with multiple fireballs. Once all was set and done, Naruto barely had a shirt left as charred skin was clearly visible. Its legendary power has certainly not been exaggerated. I'm going to have up the ante if I'm going to have a chance to survive. Seeing the long, dark red hair and whisker marks, Fugaku started laughing, saying, "Ha ha ha. So that Minato brat sent the Jinchuriki after me. I'm honored. For all the Uchiha clansmen slain on the day of your cursed birth, I'm going to enjoy killing you," Fugaku said maniacally. Lost in conversation, Fugaku didn't notice Naruto running to the other side of the building until it was too late. "Hey, where are you running off to?" Realized it's futile to fight against the Sharingan, Fugaku asked. However, he became wide-eyed seeing Naruto use his Tanto to cut the main pipe of the water plant as gallons upon gallons of water rushed into the building. Seeing the place partly submerged, Naruto smirked as he said, "Let us see which is greater, my mastery over the water element and your mastery of the Sharingan." Naruto quickly went through the necessary hand seals and shouted, "Water release! Hidden mist jutsu." As a strong mist surrounded the building, Naruto made the tiger seal and shouted, "Shadow clone jutsu." As 7 shadow clone jutsus surrounded Fugaku, Naruto landed roughly on the ground. This is going to leave a headache in the morning, he thought to himself. Before Naruto could even get his bearings straight, Fugaku appeared right in front of him and punched him again, this time square in the nose. Naruto quickly backflipped 3 times before stabilizing himself, holding his bloody and broken nose. Naruto thought, how is he doing this? It's like he's instantly transporting himself to wherever I am. Either that or he's stopping time. Oh, how could I be such an idiot? It's Jinjutsu. Flaring his chakra and shouting Kai multiple times, Naruto mentally thanked that old fox Watanabe for all his lessons on Jinjutsu. Remembering to not look at a Sharingan user in the eyes, Naruto stared at Fugaku's feet to try and predict his movements. Naruto knew that things were not looking good. He was running out of chakra after using so many high-level techniques, and he hasn't been able to land even a scratch on the Uchiha head. Seeing that he's not good enough in Taijutsu, Naruto took out his Tanto, quickly completed the necessary hand signs, and shouted wind release. Vacuum blade, as a hazy, almost visible, layer of wind chakra coated his favorite weapon. He's mocking me. Very well, I will use his overconfidence against him, thought Naruto as he made vertical swipe against Fugaku's chest. Seeing Fugaku dodge his swipe, a clone of Naruto tried to make an upward slash against Fugaku's back. Oh, so you're learning. But that doesn't matter. My eyes can see all, declared Fugaku as he effortlessly began to dodge the clone's slash. Seeing what his overconfidence and bluster cost him in battle, Fugaku decided to end their little excitement. The 3 Tomo in his Sharingan eyes combined into a pinwheel-like pattern. "Run away, Kit. You can't fight those cursed eyes." "Get away now," Kurama screamed inside Naruto's head. "By your expression, I see you know what these eyes are capable of. Yes, these are the legendary Manjikyu Sharingan. And with it, I shall be your demise," promised Fugaku as Naruto's entire world turned black and white. He found himself on a tied to a cross as seemingly thousands of copies of himself were also tied to similar crosses. Even more horrifyingly, each crucified copy of himself had a devilish Fugaku with a sword in front of them. Realizing that this must be a Jinjutsu, Naruto kept flaring his chakra to of no avail. "Yes," Itachi replied, not losing his stoic demeanor as neither his face nor his body showed any conflict at all. "I see. You have become one of Danzo's emotionless tools. You're the one who's been spying for Danzo and the Hokage. You're the one who ruined this day for us," Fugaku said sadly. I'm sorry, Itachi, for making you go through route. I can't imagine the kinds of things that sick man did to you. You have endured so much for the Uchiha clan. If there is any part of the Itachi I used to know, please lay down your weapons and join me. For your father. For the Uchiha, said Fugaku passionately. I am not a mere tool of Danzo, and I will not be your tool either. You will bring ruin to the Uchiha. What exactly do you hope to gain by rebelling against the village, our very home? Even if you succeed, you will lose all your bargaining chips when you cede control of places you are holding hostage. This is just a misguided crusade for revenge, and I will end it before you can embarrass the clan any further, said Itachi emotionlessly. No, I did not. I would never kill an Uchiha without just cause, said Itachi matter-of-factly. I gained these eyes when I killed 2 of our clansmen in your rebellion. Father, said an impassive Itachi. Well then, let us see who has greater visual prowess, the son or the father, declared Fugaku as he activated his Susanoo. Right then, a large, blue skeleton with samurai armor, a sword, and a shield surrounded Fugaku. At the same time, a purple skeleton with similar armor, sword, and shield surrounded Itachi. And there's a whole clan of Uchihas. As Naruto kept seeing images of hundreds upon hundreds of Sharingans glaring at him, he started hitting his head on the pavement to get rid of those cursed eyes in his head. Oh, he thought he could actually take over Konoha and protect Rice, when he couldn't even protect himself. So what, you lost one battle? Do you want to throw it all away? Do you want to prove Minato right when he threw you out? Yelled the Kyuubi. Ah! Naruto screamed as Kurama screamed inside his head as his blinding headache from Fugaku's punches returned with a vengeance. As the Naruto's headache began to numb, Naruto sluggishly dodged a piece of the ceiling as Itachi and Fugaku continued to clash swords. Dodging parts of the ceiling and debris flying in the air, Naruto thought about what Kurama said. He was right. He couldn't throw everything away because he lost this battle. He could get stronger only if he survives this day. Picking up his tanto, Naruto watched the battle keenly, looking for any weakness in Fugaku he could exploit. As the battle progressed between father and son, Fugaku soon realized he would run out of chakra soon, so he went back to his human form because of his previous taxing battle with Naruto and thought of a new plan. Before Itachi could come up with an answer, Fugaku said in a booming voice, "You know there are other secrets to the Manjikyu other than Susanoo. Allow me to show you." Amaterasu, Fugaku said as a black fire began consuming Itachi's Susanoo. My son. Always, Fugaku choked out as he breathed his last. Itachi could only stare ahead, stunned at the revelation and the fact that he couldn't get the image of Naruto stabbing his father in the back out of his head. Thanks to his Sharingan, he memorized every last excruciating detail. Staring at Naruto with sheer loathing, Itachi only managed to squeak out a "hi" as he turned to leave. Itachi feared if he stayed with Naruto a minute longer, he might be liable to kill his Taicho. I want to pluck one of the Sharingans off the dead bodies and keep it with you for later, Kurama said. What? No way. I am not getting near one of those cursed eyes, Naruto said with an air of finality. Look, think about this, Kit. Danzo's probably coming here soon with his goons to snatch up the rest of the Sharingans. You experienced that unbreakable Jinjutsu. Do you want to be that helpless again? Asked the Kyuubi. Look, I experienced a similar Jinjutsu when I attacked Konoha. Do you think I enjoy taking pitiful human lives for fun? No, I'm much too advanced for that. However, I was controlled by a Manjikyu Sharingan, an unbreakable Jinjutsu that instead of torturing you for 72 hours instead takes away all you free will. Do you want to be a mere puppet to Danzo or Itachi's whims? Asked Kurama seriously. And in the eventuality someone tries to control us using those cursed eyes, your partner will recognize it, and he'll be able to get us out of the Jinjutsu, explained Kurama. Later that night, this is your full report, Hokage-sama, Danzo told Minato respectfully. So what you are saying that all the bodies of the Uchiha clansmen you were ordered to apprehend were burned in the course of the battles? All of them, Minato asked angrily. Danzo likely harvested 20 pairs of Sharingans. Only Kami knows what he plans to do with them, he thought. Most Konoha shinobi specialize in the fire element. That doesn't mean they go around burning every enemy they encounter, replied a frustrated Minato. Ah, forget it. Tell me more about this mission, ordered Minato. Oh, you know him as Naruto. He has indeed grown up to be a fine tool, Danzo replied. Minato felt a sinking feeling in his gut when he heard that name. His entire plan shattered by Danzo's cunning. Minato can't pin this whole affair on Danzo now that the leader of the mission was Naruto, because he just can't execute Naruto. That is all. You are dismissed, said Minato. Seeing his revelation having the effect he wanted, Danzo internally smirked. Have a nice day, Hokage-sama, he said, keeping his ever-stoic face. The next day, Naruto was finally released from that cursed hospital where all the medics look at him with barely disguised hate. Seriously, if they didn't want him in there so badly, Why did they have to keep him a full day? As Naruto left the hospital, a cat-masked ANBU appeared in front of him. You are wanted. By order of the Hokage, the ANBU said emotionlessly. Kneeling, Naruto said as emotionlessly as he could, you called for me, Hokage-sama. After Danzo left his office, Minato consulted with Jiraiya, who agreed that Naruto being the QB wouldn't make sense if we consider all the missions he completed for Konoha and his loyalty to the Leaf. From the records, he acts just like any other root shinobi. However, he couldn't just go up to Naruto and tell him that he is his father. So Minato decided to send Naruto to the academy to hopefully make some lasting bonds and break out his root programming like Kakashi did when he joined a team. If he is able to make friends, it would be incontrovertible proof that Naruto is human, since tailed beasts can't understand human emotions. Minato just hopes that Naruto accepts going to the academy, and this conversation with him goes better than the one he had with Mikoto. When she heard that Danzo and his root were responsible for the death of her former husband and dozens of her clansmen, she was livid and out for blood. Naruto was stunned by the Hokage's order. He did so well in ANBU, he's being demoted to the academy? Yeah, right. What is the Hokage's game, Naruto thought. However, being just an academy student would give him more time to rebuild Rice, train to get stronger, and enact his plan to take over Konoha. Yes, this would work out just fine, Naruto thought to himself. Hi Hokage-sama, said Naruto with a blank expression. Minato didn't expect such a quick and emotionless response. But what could he expect from a root shinobi? He just hoped that Naruto doesn't stay like this forever. Then you are dismissed, said Minato as Naruto then disappeared in a shunshin of wind. 1 week later, at least there, he had a comfortable bed and could drink clear water when he wanted to. Naruto stopped himself from thinking about this further. It was not helping his mood. Another sleepless night? Kurama asked. Since you're finally awake, why don't you do something useful and teach me some of your techniques? Naruto urged. Seriously, ever since you met those foxes, you've grown in attitude. I should have left you as an emotionless root, Kurama charged. Yada yada yada. Look, I need to get stronger soon. I don't have time for your little mind games right now, Naruto said hurriedly. What happened to I don't need you? I can get stronger on my own, asked an amused Kurama. That was before I spent the last week trying to learn techniques, only to learn that my jutsus are getting weaker as time moves on. I almost died during the last mission. I can't get weaker. I need to get stronger, demanded Naruto. You know, you're not in a position to barter, considering if I die because you didn't train me, you'll become part of the Shinigami, Naruto asserted. You know that I was too busy learning from Danzo and completing missions to do that. Besides, Danzo watches his operatives like a hawk. We now have more freedom, said Naruto. Not necessarily. There's one ANBU operative watching us from the tree line behind your apartment, Kurama told him. But all the nice houses are near the civilian district, probably because ninja have little use for glamour. Regardless, I don't plan to live here long. Once I begin my plans, all will be completed. But I can't start those plans if I keep getting weaker, Naruto said. Look, I'll help you if you start studying the sealing arts, Kurama said. Fine. I'll go to the Konoha archive library tonight and look up what they have for sealing. Now what can teach me? Asked Naruto hurriedly. So you attack with pure chakra alone? How does that hurt your enemies? Asked Naruto. Well, take my tail beast ball as an example. I don't add any elements to it, but it's able to deal large-scale destructive damage to my enemies because of its very dense nature and because it's spinning at an incredibly fast rate, explained Kurama. Like I said, the reason I am able to do this kind of technique is because I have complete mastery of my chakra, since I'm a being made solely out of it. Theoretically, if you work on your chakra control and have precise chakra control, you could develop your own variant, said Kurama. Do I have to keep repeating myself? I'm a being made of chakra, so I can do chakra manipulation instinctively. I don't know how I would teach it to somebody. But if you gain precise control of your chakra, you could develop your own variants, clarified Kurama. Do you realize how long it would take for me to get that level of control? And then I would have to develop my own tailed beast ball. Naruto asked, exasperated. In that case, I'll go back to my slumber, Kurama said. Minato was a little irked in finding 10 pounds of glitter stowed away in Menma's lunchbox. The only reason he found it after having already packed his son's lunch was because he forgot to add the diced fruits he usually adds. Giving a stern lecture to Menma, he just hoped that his son wouldn't cause as much ruckus as he did last year. Still, Minato was very proud of his son for the progress in the ninja arts. He and Sasuke were in the top of the class and had almost identical scores. Minato was glad that their brotherly rivalry was keeping them from slacking in their studies. He couldn't really take credit for Menma's grades because he never had the time to teach him, because all that paperwork and meetings kept him tied down. It was mostly Kakashi and Yuna helping Menma with his shuriken practice and the academy taijutsu. He wasn't really mad about Menma abusing the jutsu for his pranks. It was that the jutsu is forbidden because it's dangerous. It splits up the user's chakra, and cause chakra exhaustion if someone isn't mature enough to understand their limits. Even when Jiraiya explained to him Menma's Uzumaki heritage and Jinchuriki status ensure that chakra exhaustion is likely never to happen, Menma still didn't think Menma ready for the responsibility of having such a jutsu. Since then, Minato has tried harder to train his son and get to know him. Minato was amazed when he saw the power of Menma's taijutsu. The sheer number of clones he could create added with Menma's own unpredictability make it a force to be reckoned with. Only his second year in the academy, Menma could probably give even a Chunin a hard time. "You would never be so cruel to your beloved sensei," Jiraiya said confidently. "You know I've killed hundreds of IWA shinobi in seconds. Locking my misbehaving sensei in a nursing home would be easier in comparison," Minato cautioned. "Don't be so down." All the evidence pointed to him being the QB. "We still don't know how." Naruto, at the age of 5, had practically adult-level intelligence and well-developed and harsh ideas about human nature, explained Jiraiya. "We had the strong, circumstantial evidence to go by, and now we all have to live with those decisions," Jiraiya explained. "Don't worry about it too much. You should wait to introduce yourself after he's made some bonds with the kids his age. In the meantime, Kakashi and I will introduce ourselves to him. I already told Menma that Naruto's Jinchuriki shouldn't affect how he sees him. Don't worry, we'll get him back," Jiraiya said confidently. "I hope you're right, Sensei," Minato said to himself as Jiraiya was leaving. "I hope you're right." As Naruto made his way to the academy, he ignored the angry and disgusted glares he was receiving from most of the civilians and shinobi alike. This is something he almost forgot about during his stint en route. However, after an entire week of experiencing it, he was slowly becoming desensitized. Soon, he told himself, he would have their lives in the palm of his hand. "Do you think so low of me you believe I'm driven only by thoughts of hate and revenge?" asked Naruto amusedly. "Sigh. If only you could think more like me and squash Konoha for trapping me 3 separate times," Kurama said wearily. "You know what thoughts of revenge and hate cost Fugaku. What'd it cost you?" "I don't plan to follow that path," Naruto said. The QB didn't reply and instead went back to sleep. Connections to the clan heirs would certainly help his own plans. Reaching for the door to the correct classroom, Naruto knew he was a few minutes late. But he came late on purpose. He wanted the whole class to be there when the instructors make him introduce himself. He was especially excited the reactions of all the students when they realized that he would be their classmate for the next 3 years. His Jinchuriki status is widely known throughout the village and wasn't kept a secret even from the younger generation. Opening the doors to the room, Naruto was greeted with shocked gasps and utter silence. He had to admire the Inuzuka and Uchiha heirs, who were looking at him confidently, if a bit edgy. Interestingly, the Nara heir was looking at him tiredly, as if bored. "He is not normal," he said to himself. "I'll have to watch out for him later." Finally, he noticed his brother who was looking at him normally as if he was just another student. Once the instructors got out of their nervous daze, they finally addressed the class. "Everyone, we will be having a new student," the instructor with a deep scar on his face and ponytail said. He then added, "Why don't you introduce yourself to the class?" "Hello, I'm Naruto," he said as emotionlessly as he could. Naruto's impassive tone seemed to put the instructors even more on edge. "Okay. Well, I'm Irika Yamano. You can call me Irika-sensei," said the scarred instructor with a ponytail while elbowing the other instructor. "All right, Naruto. Why don't you take a seat, and we can start today's lesson," Irika said. Naruto sat on the back corner near the windows, much to the relief of the majority of the class. "Look at those humans, cowering in fear," said Kurama. "They are interesting, aren't they?" Naruto said. "I wonder which one of them will be good pawns to use in the game I plan to play," he added. "You plan to use these human toddlers as pawns. Unless you plan to sacrifice them, they won't be worth much," Kurama said. "I wouldn't be so sure about that. Regardless, I'll be studying their interests, fears, likes, dislikes, and goals from now on. Once I know what makes them tick, I'll be able to decide which ones can be useful," Naruto said, eyeing the heirs like a predator eyes his prey. "Today, I'm not going to be able to do that because everyone is still afraid and shocked that I'm in their class. I'll never be able to observe their interactions, so I'll have to make them feel a little bit more at ease," he added. "I'm going to nap in class every day. Pretty soon, they'll grow more and more comfortable in my presence," he said as he laid his head down on his desk to rest. None of the instructors asked him to wake him. Later that day, entering the building, Naruto walked over to the registration desk where 2 Chunin sat in a desk with paper strewn all around them. He knew they weren't there to actually protect the library. More likely, they were just there to carry out administrative roles. Very likely, there were multiple ANBU teams hiding the background to make sure no one made out with any high-level techniques or village secrets. When the Chunin saw him, they were immediately taken aback by the entrance of the village's Jinchuriki. Once they seemed to regain their bearings, Naruto handed them his academy ID. Naruto left the library, checking out only the beginner scrolls for sealing. He left the library frustrated. He would have to plan an operation to steal scrolls from the Jounin section, and he knew it would not be an easy endeavor considering the ANBU teams that are likely swarming the place. If only things could be easy, he thought to himself as he made his way back to his apartment to plan out this operation. He had the other two perfect hinge themselves into insects to alert him if his shadow clone ever got in trouble or if there is any other thing that's newsworthy. Naruto then perfect hinged himself into an ant and crawled out of the apartment and into an abandoned alley. There, he changed his transformation to a cat, a pervasive stray animal in Konoha. He left through one of the many paths. He saw other stray animals enter and leave the village. The political instability in the country likely created panic in the markets, destabilizing the already poor economy, Naruto thought to himself. He also saw that many of the ninja appointed to police the population were actively taking bribes and roughing up the citizens they were meant to protect. Then again, Naruto really couldn't blame them. Even though they were ninjas, they likely didn't get paid enough to provide for their families. Then there was Arashi's government, which couldn't get much done because of all the constant infighting and quarrels. Arashir himself also didn't have much credibility because even though he was one of the few Jounin-level ninja in Rice and leader of the Fuma clan, he didn't do anything really spectacular during the rebellion. Lastly, any laws that Arashi's administration managed to pass were mostly ignored by the populace since his government still kept Konoha's one-sided treaties in place. Naruto really had to fix things quickly or the whole country could fall apart. There's no need. I want you to call a council of the most important people in the village politically. I will be addressing them all tonight personally, Naruto instructed. Hearing a hi, Naruto continued. I also want you to bring other particularly strong or capable people, be they ninja or civilian, and seat them separately from the people who are politically important. That night, Naruto walked into the so-called deliberation room of the palace that was previously used by the daimyo's advisors when they were making new laws or signing treaties. Now it is being used as a council chamber by Rice's new ruling clique. When everyone saw Naruto walk in with his long, flowing red hair and his fox companion by his side, the entire chamber became deathly quiet. Then one council member began clapping, and soon the whole room erupted into wild clapping and shouts of Red Fox-sama. Red Fox-sama. This precise reaction was the reason he brought Suzuki with him. These people really needed some inspiration to take them out of their depression and defeatist attitudes. Taking his seat at the head of the table, he thought about the explosive revelation he was going to say next. What these people really need is pride and motivation to better their lives. What they really need to know is that they are worth it. That Rice is worth fighting for, he thought to himself. That's because of Konoha, one person shouted. Death to the leaf. Another shouted as murmurs of similar sentiments traveled around the room. Yes, that is true. However, it's not just Konoha's fault. Right now Rice is weak and divided. It cannot function independently. That's why I came here tonight to declare the country of Rice dead, Naruto said loudly. Shocked gasps and disbelieving stares met Naruto when he finished saying those words. Pulling a headband with the symbol of a single musical note etched into it, Naruto said, with Rice's death, I declare our rebirth. We shall now be known as Otogeikure, the village hidden in the sound. Indicating with his hands for the shouting to die down, Naruto continued, no longer will be a puppet to Konoha's whims. No longer will we be thought of as just another part of Fire Country. We will now be a proper ninja village. We will be known around the world as Otogeikure in the land of sound. Hearing loud shouts of agreement, Naruto continued. Then, as the Shodaime Otokichi, I implore you to follow the spirit of sound. To never give up, no matter what. To rise from the ground, when everyone believes you've finished. Hearing a general clamor of agreement, he said, I will be staying in the village for the next few days to hash out our government structure, stabilize the economy, and bring reform to essential services like the academy, the ninja police force, and village hospital. I hope each of you will work just as hard. As Naruto left the chambers, he ended with, may the spirit of sound ring loudly. Always. Walking outside with only the moon and stars to illuminate the village, Naruto could still hear that line being repeated inside the palace. You really have a way with words, Naruto. You turned that crowd around and injected new life into them, Suzuki said. Believe me, it wasn't easy. I spent countless hours studying human nature and what makes them tick. I found that I just needed to inspire them and give them something to fight for, Naruto said. Still, that's really impressive. Do you plan to have us foxes teach them our sound genjutsu? Asked Suzuki. Yes, I already planned it with the Watanabe. You guys will perfect hinge yourselves into humans and teach all Oto ninjas with enough chakra control genjutsu, said Naruto. I see. You really have all this planned out. I can't wait to see what you'll do next, said Suzuki excitedly. 1 week later, he instantly lost his footing as he hit the floor and lost consciousness from the sheer amount of pain. When Naruto awoke, hours later, he made a note to never do that again. However, he was relieved to know that his classmates at the academy have begun to get used to his presence about him and are starting to act themselves. He couldn't wait to observe their interactions. Naruto wondered what the Toad Sannin was really up to. It couldn't be a coincidence that he shows up along the same path Naruto was taking to get to the academy. You know, watching girls bathe without their permission is considered sexual harassment under the Konoha revised code, Naruto said. Since I'm not a ninja, I can't exactly report this. Besides, I doubt anyone would press serious charges against a Sannin. If that is all, good day to you, Jiraiya and Naruto said. Oh, come on, lighten up, kid. If you want, I can train you. I heard you're into sealing. Well, I'm one of Konoha's best seal masters, Jiraiya laughed. Truth is, he was kind of unnerved seeing his godson so emotionless. Root must have really did a number on him, he said to himself sadly. However, taking him on as a sensei would not be good for his privacy. If he had Jiraiya bugging him all the time, he would never be able to leave for Odo or complete his plans for Konoha. No, the downsides in this case are worse than the benefits. But it would be suspicious to turn down Jiraiya's offer. In their little power plays, what they don't realize is that I'm loyal to neither the Hokage nor Danzo, Naruto said to himself. Jiraiya was becoming increasingly worried. What did he mean? He learned much from Danzo. Did he learn the sealing arts from Danzo? If that were the case, then why would he check out academy-level sealing books? Jiraiya also didn't miss that he called Danzo-sama, while only calling him San. Is his loyalties still with Danzo? He had to make sure. How do you feel about being out of route? Jiraiya asked. Danzo-sama taught me everything I know. I hope I served him well and can be of use to him in the future, Naruto said stoically. Yes, this is right where I want him, thought Naruto. Of course, Jiraiya-san. But I hope I can help Danzo-sama in his future endeavors, Naruto said impassively. Well, if you change your mind about training, you can always find me near the hot springs if I'm in the village, Jiraiya said nervously as he left. He had to report this to Minato. Once Naruto entered the academy classroom, he a bit disappointed to see he wasn't the first one there. For the past week, his shadow clone had been coming to the class early and falling asleep to get the class used to his presence. Right now, the Uchiha and Inuzuka heirs were already seated. The Uchiha, Sasuke was confident as ever. As the son of Fugaku and brother of Itachi, Naruto made a note to never underestimate him. The Inuzuka, it seemed, was still a bit nervous, but was looking pretty confident himself. Sitting at the back corner near the window as always, Naruto crossed his arms around his head to make it seem like he is sleeping. In your dreams, Sakura forehead. I got to the classroom first, Ino retorted. They then began fighting over who would sit in the only seat available next to Sasuke. Naruto noted the vast majority of the girls in the academy, not just this class, were infatuated with that brooding Uchiha. The next to enter were the overweight Akimichi heir who seemed to be dragging the skinny Nara heir into the classroom. Once they sat together, they started a conversation. What do you think we'll do today, Shikamaru? Asked the Akimichi heir as he opened a bag of chips. Does it really matter, Choji? Either way, it's going to be troublesome, said Shikamaru lazily. Naruto noted that they certainly make an interesting pair. The Kurama heiress was the next to enter. Naruto didn't miss that she only walked weakly and had prominent bangs under her eyes. She looked pale and sick, making Naruto wonder why she even came to class in the first place. After her entered the instructors and the civilian students. Naruto researched these civilians and found that they came from powerful merchant families or at least politically connected. Their family's influence is the reason that they are able to be in the class with all the clan heirs. Naruto noted that she and Menma are always the last to enter since Menma walks all the way to the other side of the village to the Hyuga compound to walk her to class every day. Now that everybody's here, let me give you a rundown of what we'll do today. First, we'll have history lecture led by me, a quiz on chakra and the body, and then taijutsu practice outside, led by Mizuki, Irika said. Mizuki explained that taijutsu practice today would consist of one-on-one matches between the students. Naruto was disappointed to see that the civilians used the academy-style taijutsu and still made mistakes in their forms. The clan heirs, on the other hand, had their own taijutsu styles, but their stances were still weak and left many openings. Sasuke ran to Naruto and attempted to punch in the mouth, while keeping another hand back for defense. As Naruto dodged Sasuke's punches, he was a little disappointed that his clan would teach this style to someone who hasn't activated the Sharingan, because it relied on being able to predict your opponent's moves ahead of time. However, instead hitting back, Hinata only blocked the attack, allowing Sakura to use her other arm to punch Hinata in the chest. As Hinata staggered back, Sakura kept sluggishly hitting her, eventually pushing her to the ground. With Hinata on the ground, Sakura was declared the winner. See that, Sasuke, I'm beat her. True love wins again, declared Sakura as she stared affectionately at her dark prince. Sasuke only managed a detached humph as he glared at Hinata, seeing her weakness. I don't see how you can use any of these children as underlings. They're all pathetic and weak, Kurama said. So you're finally awake. Where were you for the past week? Naruto asked. You know I can't go anywhere with this damnable seal. I was asleep. But you still didn't answer the question, Kurama continued. Yes, she's the weakest of them all, Kurama said indignantly. Where you see weakness, I see untapped potential, Naruto said. To reach any potential, you would need to train her endlessly. I just don't think it's worth the time, Kurama said. That's only because they haven't fully figured out all the benefits of having Hyuga blood. I will turn her into a goddess among mortals, Naruto proclaimed. Yeah, good luck with that. Besides, even if you do make her so powerful, how would you even control her, Kurama asked. Oh, that will be easier than you think. I just need to find what makes her think and what she wants more than anything else in this world. Then she will be putty in my hands, Naruto answered. Why do you need my help? You already learned everything about covert operations from Watanabe, asked a tired Kurama. Naruto entered the Konoha archive library perfect hinged into the library manager, a green-haired clanless, married Jounin. To enact this plan wasn't as easy as Naruto thought. He had to first intoxicate his civilian wife after she was coming home from partying with her friends. Then he led the drunken civilian to bar where a chunin he promised a good time to was waiting patiently. When the library manager and his friends entered their favorite bar that night, he was angry, embarrassed, distraught, and a number of other emotions all at once. Believing his entire marriage to be a lie, the Jounin drunk himself until he passed out. Suffices to say, he would not be coming to work today, allowing Naruto to play him for the day. But since he doesn't have any of his memories, he needed Kurama to sense anyone getting near that the Jounin might have known. Soon, I would be getting stronger. A lot stronger, he said to himself as he made his way to the apartment.